Okay, it is 2 o'clock, so I will go ahead and get us started. Welcome, everyone. We are recording our session today, so we ask that everyone turn off their cameras and mute themselves during the presentation. I will be monitoring the chat, so you can share your questions there. And then we also have a couple of our presenters that will be sharing your questions as well. Meg Kruger is running tech for us today. Thank you so much. As I said, we're recording. I'll share this recording tomorrow in an email. If you're uncomfortable with your name showing, you can change your name to anonymous and then private message Meg with your name so she can keep track of your attendance. I'm going to go ahead and do our land acknowledgement. Texas Children in Nature Network is headquartered in Austin, and as such, I'm on the ancestral and unceded land of the Tonkawa, Cherokee, and Sauna people. Our ongoing colonial presence on Indigenous lands compels us to take action now to counteract the effects of colonization. The work we do through the Texas Children in Nature Network is one small step towards that effort. I'm going to put a few links in the chat to learn more about land acknowledgements and the Indigenous people of our area here. And then I am going to go ahead and turn off my camera and turn it over to Austin Youth River Watch. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chanel, she, her pronouns, and I'm going to be moderating this conversation with Emilia. And we have two student representatives here, Amy and Kiana. And so to start off, we're just going to introduce ourselves. And so, like I said, my name is Chanel. I'm a program coordinator. And so I spend the majority of my time with our after school, so high school students, and our AEL young adult interns. And I'll turn it over to, oh, and I forgot, question of the day. We always do a question of the day. And so the question of the day today is, what is your favorite body of water? And so for me right now in the summer, or kind of always, is the ocean is my favorite body of water. And so in the chat for participants and everyone, if you have a favorite body of water, feel free to share that in the chat. So I'll turn it over to Emilia.
Thanks so much, Chanel. Hi, y'all. I'm Emilia Devivo. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the program director at Austin Youth River Watch. I'm super stoked to be here and to have this great conversation about these fantastic young folks that have been working with us and to have a really critical conversation about equity in the outdoors. Chanel, I was thinking about this. Obviously, I knew this question was coming, right? My favorite body of water. I'm going to agree with you on the ocean, even though, of course, I love Barton Springs, but I'm going to say Pacific Ocean, just because I have some really wonderful memories there growing up and spending time with family. So that's for me. I'm going to pass it over to Beth, who I think is also going to be in the mix here, kind of helping us with the chat and kind of on the back end of things.
Hi, everyone. My name is Beth. I use she, her pronouns as well. And I will be monitoring the chat and help facilitate a little bit more behind the scenes today. And one of my favorite bodies of water is Balmorhea, going to the springs there in Balmorhea out in West Texas. So I would say that's my favorite. Let me pass it to Melinda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melinda with Austin Youth River Watch. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm also doing what Beth is doing, just supporting the team here and monitoring the chat. My favorite body of water, I really enjoy all bodies of water, but if I had to pick one that affects me directly, it would be my neighborhood creek, which is Little Walnut Creek.
And then I'll pass it to either Amy or Kiana, if either one of you want to introduce yourselves, you can talk about what you did in Riverwatch briefly, like were you an intern, River Watcher, yada, yada, and then what school you go to or graduated from for y'all, and then your favorite body of water too.
Hi, so my name is Amy. I was a part of the after-school high school program. I graduated from Eastside Memorial, and my pronouns are she, her. My favorite body of water, it's kind of hard to say. I really like Barton Springs, but like Emilia, I have memories, but in the ocean, in the Gulf of Mexico. So I kind of have a hard time between those two. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Kiana. I am a graduate now of Southwestern University. I did an internship with Riverwatch and then did their AEL internship program. So I was with them for something like a year, like a school year. I can't remember what the other questions were, but I think my next question is, what's my favorite body of water? I've also saw this in the email earlier, and I've been thinking about it. And for some reason, I saw someone say in the chat too, I think swamps are really crazy places, that there's just so much going on there. So I think I'm going to say swamps. I have no affiliation or sentimental value associated with swamps. I just think they are very interesting places.
Beautiful. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, thanks for everyone in the chat sharing their favorite body of water too. And so before we get into the questions and hearing more from Amy and Kiana, I'm just going to share my screen and give just a quick overview of what our program is, what we do, especially for those of y'all who aren't familiar with us. So this is really quick, mostly pictures, just to give y'all an overview and a picture of what it is we do. And so for our after school program, which has been running for since the 1990s, we focus on environmental education, youth development, and adventure. And so for our after school program, we work with students in the summers, anywhere from just graduated 8th grade all the way to just graduated high school. And then for our Austin Environmental Leaders program is our young adult program, kind of designed to keep us in touch with our students that did graduate high school and give them an opportunity to do some more in-depth, involved work with us as an intern. And so our Austin Environmental Leaders program is for those who have graduated high school all the way up until age 24. And they don't necessarily need to be students, but to have some sort of interest in the environment and to make sure that it's a good pair for our program. And so in that, we work on a variety of things depending on what the intern is interested in and what their needs are. And so for that, for a lot of students, we focus on career readiness. So your resume building, mock interviews, shadowing professionals, life skills, if they need help setting up a bank account or managing getting set up to get a driver's license or anything like that. Project-based learning, so whether it's a restoration project, anything related to environmental policy or anything like that, we do mostly projects with our students, and then other leadership opportunities to lead other interns in a project, as well as to be connected to our after-school students and maybe help develop some lessons or other education-related things in that realm as well. And so these are just some pictures. Most of them are pretty recent of things that we've been up to, which are, of course, water quality testing, restoration projects, and macroinvertebrates, as well as all the fun stuff like canoeing, kayaking, and rock climbing and such things too. And so here are some other photos. This summer, we were fortunate enough to be in person with our students. And so we were able to go water quality test and care for a lot of the restoration sites that we that we worked on in the spring, which we know is a big deal in Texas in the summer. And then a new portion of our program that we implemented during the pandemic as we've been virtual with after school is Urban Apron. So during the semester, we deliver materials kits as well as meal kits to students to make meals together when we join up together on Zoom once a week. And so during the summer, that was something students expressed that they really loved, like making a meal and eating it together. So we did that too. And then we think next. Oh, and of course, the last thing, we love to do all the science things. We love to be outside. We love to get in the river and the creek. But we also really love to focus on celebrating our students for all of their wonderful accomplishments. And so some of these are pictures of our recently graduated seniors and some of the other things that we are typically up to at Riverwatch. So that's just a general overview. Emilia, I want to throw it to you if there's anything I forgot or anything else you wanted to add.
I think that was pretty comprehensive, Chanel. Thanks. I love seeing that photo of you though, Kiana, and the waiters. I see that down there. That makes me really happy. I remember we were going over E. coli testing that day. So this is just, yeah, it's fun to be able to relive these memories and experiences. I think Chanel has highlighted all the work that we do together. And I think, yeah, just emphasizing, we really do love celebrating all the fantastic work that our young folks take a part of. Our folks come from all over Central Texas, and like y'all are interested in a wide array of things. And so it's always cool to kind of keep a pulse on what you guys have been up to. So I'm just excited to continue that chat today.
Beautiful. Can't forget Amy up here having fun in the summer. All right, I'll stop my share. Perfect. So now let's get into some questions. Let's hear from Amy. Let's hear from Kiana about your experience in Riverwatch, and also another mention, right? If there's any questions or comments or anything for either Emilia and I as staff about logistics and things, or for Amy and Kiana, please feel free to throw those in the chat. We've got Melinda and Beth monitoring those questions to make sure that we ask them out loud. So, but to start out, let's to either Amy or Kiana, you guys choose whoever would like to go or popcorn it. I'd love to hear for you to tell us about how you heard about Riverwatch and what made you decide to join.
So I heard about Riverwatch because you guys had came to my school during my AVID class, and you were doing what you were doing now. You were telling us all about the program. And what had made me want to join was actually two things. So first off, my best friend was already involved in the program. Her name's Natalie, and was like, okay, I was an automatic yes. But what had also interested me was the opportunity to go outdoors and learn about the environment, not just through videos and not just through textbooks and not just through my science teacher. That meant I got to do like the firsthand, let's go into the water, let me get icky with all this mud. And that was definitely like, although I don't really like bugs, but it was good to really be out there. I really liked that. So that had definitely caught my interest of wanting to join Riverwatch.
Yeah, I learned about Riverwatch. I was already in my junior year of my undergraduate career, and my professor somehow found out about the program and then just forwarded it to the whole environmental studies department. And what caught my attention, I guess, was on this flyer, it wasn't so much the description. I mean, the description was interesting, but it was obvious that there was a lot of opportunity that wasn't stated on the flyer. I could tell that it was a very open-ended kind of role, which was very interesting to me because, like Emilia said, myself and so many other young people in environmentalism have so many interests. I also really liked the fact that it would be focused on youth, and I would be working with high schoolers in my position, because I think that I'm still a young person, but as at the age that I am, I feel like I can resonate so closely with people who are just getting interested in what opportunities there are. So I was really interested in that, and that's why I decided to join.
Thanks for sharing, y'all. That's so fun. Amy, I didn't realize we were in your AVID class, but that definitely makes sense. I guess my next question, and you guys can kind of choose how you'd like to tackle it, because I realize, Amy, you were with our after school program, soon to be Austin Environmental Leaders, but Kiana, you had the internship Austin, option, which we offer to young folks who are 18 to 24 years old. So I realize that this will look a little different for both of you guys. But maybe if you can fill us in on just kind of the day-to-day, and I realize that could also kind of, that changes. And of course, Amy, with virtual paired with being in person, I guess both of you guys actually had a mixture of that, right? As so many of us over the past year and a half had. But yeah, just filling us in, and the folks at home or wherever it is that they're joining us, we're showing these pictures and we're talking about, testing and restoration work, but what does that look like? Boots on the ground from your perspective. I'll let whoever wants to answer that first go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, I can go ahead and try. So I think, like you said, my first experience with you guys was interning, and I was probably there for a month or two before COVID happened, and we had to go virtual. But I don't think I ever had the same day twice at Riverwatch. I started off doing going out with the crews to do water quality testing. I did some of the data input. I did general tidying up of the eco house. We got started on a greenhouse project for native riparian plants. We were pulling out gamma grass one day, separating samples and labeling them the next day. And then more on the virtual side, I was doing a lot more research, organizing, planning. We did some grant writing. It was a lot happening, and yeah, but I think that's also the beauty of it. I didn't have a typical day. It was just whatever was going on, whatever was needed, whatever we could do with the resources we had. We did do a little E. coli testing. Yeah. Oh, of course, we did some trash pickup too. Yeah, that's all I can think of. The oven is going off. I don't know if y'all can hear that.
Of course, always something that is beeping or going off right when it's an inopportune time. Yeah, Amy, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I was going to ask you to restate the question because I was thinking a lot, and by thinking a lot caused me to be like, oh wait, where was I going to go and answer this for?
I hear you. Well, also you're probably being a good listener, because when you're caught up listening, it's hard to think about what you're going to say. I'm just wondering if you want to share essentially what we did every day. What does a day-to-day look like at Riverwatch? What were some of the things you were involved with? So that's all.
Right. Okay. So what I really liked about it is we had like a schedule. So we would get picked up from school, and then we'd have some snacks, and then we'd kind of have an overview of what we were going to do today. And so whatever that was, or sometimes right after school, instead of going to the eco house, we would go to the Colorado River, or actually, no, it was this creek by my school. I can't remember the name, but it was a creek by my school, and we'd do some water testing, or we would go meet up somewhere else. And then once we were done with our, I guess, assessment for the day, we'd go to the eco house and we'd enjoy a meal together. And then we would go ahead and head home. And I think that was a good, that would look like a typical day at Riverwatch. I definitely looked forward to it every week.
Yeah, wow, memories since we've been mostly virtual, right? Our schedule hasn't looked like that in a while, but usually, yeah, we're like with you guys when we pick you up from school at 4:30 or so, when you get out, all the way until we drop, like the last drop off usually is around 8 p.m. So we spend a lot of time together, a lot of time in the van, a lot of time, you know, outside, or when we bring the coolers out for picnics at wherever, like park or creek where we're at that day. So yeah, definitely a very holistic overview. Oh, and Beth in the chat said it was Boggy Creek that y'all went to. Awesome. And so in thinking about your typical day or atypical day, I want to hear about, you guys have done so many things with us, but what were some of the like kind of cornerstone, either activities or moments or anything like that was your, maybe your favorite thing that you did, something you really remember and that you are kind of hold on to? What are something that you guys have done? It doesn't have to be one thing, it could be like multiple. That's really a cornerstone moment for you in as being a river watcher or an intern.
Yeah, I can start this one. I think there's a few things that I can think of for when we're talking about like cornerstones of my experience with Riverwatch. And keep in mind, I would have loved to have the opportunity to be an actual river watcher when I was in high school, but I didn't even go to school in the Austin area, but I really would have loved to have that opportunity. So I'm more on the side of like the coordinating, planning. I had a long internship experience. So my cornerstones that I can think of are the big intern project we did at the end of my time at Riverwatch. I think we had so much building up to that. I helped one of the crews, I think it was Crockett, and maybe someone else. We picked out that big bunch of gamma grass and like separated all of them and then like kind of propagated it. And we were just taking care of that batch for so long. And then we finally got to plant it on that day. And it was really cool because I think that's something we'd been anticipating and looking forward to for so long. And then we finally got to do it. And it was kind of like the most fulfilling experience to finally see how it's applied in the real world, and that like the things that we were doing the whole time I was with Riverwatch, like how it looks in real world application. And then the second thing I can think of was, as Emilia brought up earlier, the panel that we had with all of those different eco-professionals in such different ranges of fields and experience, who are all kind of on the same page of like the importance of diversity and the importance of their experience as people of color in the environmental field, and how that influences the like the quality of their work and how that influences their experience. And yeah, that's something that I've always thought about and I've always cherished with my time with Riverwatch. But yeah, that's what I can think about.
So I'd say out of many, my favorite would definitely have to be when we were doing our virtuals and we'd have a day where we would make meals. I think my favorite one was like this carrot, I don't know, what was it called? Like a carrot salad?
The carrot salad with like curry powder and coconut milk. Yeah, it was so good.
That was so good. So I loved that. I loved how, I don't know, I loved how the food was always incorporated with Austin Youth Riverwatch. I was like, that's actually pretty cool. So I liked that a lot. And also my second favorite would have to be when we all made pesto together. I had never heard about pesto, didn't know what it was. They showed me what it was, and it was like this green looking thing. I was like, but when I tried it, it was so good. So I think that was definitely really fun. And then my last one is, we had a little bit of extra time. This was before COVID, and we had a little bit of extra time, and we were at the Eco House, and it was like right at kind of like sundownish. And you could see the Eco House and the field, and everything felt felt so beautiful. And I was like, wow. I think it was just being able to set that experience, because I think being in this program as a whole is just one good memory that I'm going to hold with me forever. So besides all those little ones, I think just having this program as a whole is definitely something that I'm going to continue having. So thank you guys. I'm gonna cry.
Oh my goodness, Amy, you're definitely, yeah, you're gonna make us all a little emotional, but that makes me really happy. Just in thinking about the sunsets with you guys. And then also, of course, shout out to Urban Roots, who was a really big collaborator with us. And they have been, yeah, monumental in helping us get our Urban Apron program up and running. So they donated all that fresh basil to us. Additionally, the carrots too. Interesting that you say you liked the carrot salad. I know that was a contentious one with many student crews. We had some hits, we had some misses, but yeah, I liked that one. It's always fun to try new foods and spices and whatnot together. Yeah, I'm gonna move on. You know, and thinking about, thank you guys both for sharing your memories. I'm thinking about, you know, the audience that we have. It's a lot of folks who are really invested in the environment. And so I know so many folks are educators or who have been involved with different clubs and organizations, or maybe they're doing restoration work just throughout the city or even greater kind of central Texas area. What is something that you guys would like to share with them that you've learned at Riverwatch? Or if there's even something that, you know, not necessarily that you learned in Riverwatch that you would like to share with them. I think we do talk a lot about amplifying young folks' voices and sharing like your thoughts and feelings and opinions. And so whether, you know, that's centered on just something directly related to maybe the restoration work that we did or some activities, or maybe it's something about like intersectional environmentalism and what you think people's priorities should be, especially when we're looking at issues of equity in the outdoors. So that's kind of a loaded question. So I'll let that kind of sit for a moment. But whenever you're ready, what would you like to share with the folks here today, whether you learned in Riverwatch or just something that you already have and know?
I can try to take a jab at it. It is a loaded question. I'm thinking of I've learned so many things from Riverwatch and from the general timing that I was involved with Riverwatch. I was graduating at the same time, and I was doing a lot of soul, career, you know, personal development and searching. But I think that if I'm speaking to an audience that is interested and very invested in the environment, and I guess what I can say is that there are so many ways to be involved meaningfully. And I think that what organizations like Riverwatch are doing, and I'm sure that many people on this call are doing, are expanding kind of the understanding of the environment and how people can be involved and who gets to be involved and who gets to lead and whose voice gets to be heard. I think that, I mean, this is still something that I'm learning and developing and trying to understand on a deeper note myself, but how can I be involved in a way that's most meaningful and makes the most sense to me? I mean, food justice is a huge part of environmental justice and environmental well-being. Mindfulness, I mean, shout out Casa de Miel. That was also one of my favorite memories that I forgot to bring up, but definitely like even mindfulness, even, you know, just like growing some vegetables and eating them for dinner. That is so meaningful, and that that goes such a long way for everyone. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's just so many ways to be involved, and there is no one way that environmentalism looks or what meaningful work looks like. And that's something that I had to learn. Geez. Sorry. There's always a cat in the background of my calls, guys. But yeah, that's what I have to say.
She's so cute. Okay. Yeah, it was a very loaded question. In Riverwatch, I had Beth, and she would do these presentations on like environmental justice, and she would inform us about how, oh, I lost my train of thought. Let me bring it back. Okay, so no, I blanked. Okay, Emilia, could you restate the question, please?
You know it. I'm happy to repeat all day, every day. And yeah, again, you can take it down to just a small thing of something that you learned about or something that you thought was interesting during your time in Riverwatch that you'd like to share with other folks, especially everyone here who is really invested in the environment, you know, and people are doing wonderful things and involved with a lot of organizations and schools. Yeah, what's something that you'd like to share with them, or even just kind of a big takeaway that maybe you learned that maybe you didn't know about before?
Okay. Without sounding too basic, but for me, it really was water quality testing. I thought it did involve like those big factories. I thought that meant it'd have to go through like huge, this is my brain process, but I thought it had to go through like huge, like these big filters and like a big tube or something. But once I learned that they just dissect like some water and then put it in little tubes, it's like, oh, that was super fascinating to me already because I had no idea how that worked. So being able to see how much like nitrogen it had in it or what the word even meant, and how much how much rain can make an effect in like our creeks. I don't know, they're things now that I would think back at and be like, why did I not know that? Like that makes total sense, you know? And so yeah, for me, one of those big things was definitely just water quality testing.
Wow, love to hear that. Sometimes I'm really not sure if you guys like it at all. Especially for those who don't know, when we do water quality testing, we do like the slow going like titrations and things. And so sometimes people are like, sometimes the students are like, oh, I only want to do nitrates because nitrates is the easiest one instead of DO, but love to hear that, Amy. And so in thinking about a major part of our program, which is definitely equity and focusing on youth of color and youth who have, you know, historically been disadvantaged as well. For a little bit of context too, in our program, we have a lot of different, a lot of structure, intentional structure to help remove some of the barriers that our students would typically face when trying to be in nature or do this, that, and the third. And so some of those are providing full transportation for our students from school and then back home, providing all the food and snacks that you could imagine. When they are with us, they are fed usually dinner when we're in our after school program, and during the summer, it's lunch. They are paid a stipend for their participation for their work that they do. The work that they do is providing a service for us and for the city of Austin. And so they are definitely paid for their time in our program. And Emilia, am I forgetting anything else? Those I feel like are the major cornerstones.
I think those are the big ones. And then this past year, we've even started developing bilingual curriculum. So if students want to opt into a Spanish-English kind of mix, then they definitely have that option to do.
Yeah, so in thinking about equity and how we try our very best to support our students in a multitude of ways, especially those that we know are barriers to being outdoors and enjoying yourself in whatever way that means for you. I'm curious for Kiana and Amy, if you all think about your experiences in nature, your experiences in Riverwatch, How important is representation in the outdoors to you? What does that mean to you when we think about representation of people of color, of people of all different cultural backgrounds, in experiencing nature in an equitable sense? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Yet another loaded question. Thank you, Chanel. Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking, which I still do spend a lot of time thinking about this, because environmental justice and racial equity are two things I'm very passionate and invested in. So joining those two things is, I mean, extremely important. I think when I'm talking about my own experiences personally, I think about how when I first got into the environment, let's say, when I was first interested in what can I do, what is my part, how can I contribute, I was pretty much just interested in the very basics of it. I wanted to pick up trash. I wanted to learn more about recycling. I wanted to, learn more about how plants work and what plants need and what trees need and what we were doing wrong. So I get more invested in this, and then I show up on my first day of class at university, and I realize that everyone around me, predominantly white, they all have very different experiences and all have very different backgrounds that brought them to the same place that I was at. A lot of them had experiences with their families where they go to all of these cool national parks. I had never been to a national park when I started my environmental studies degree. They all, go out on boats and swimming and do all these cool outdoor, activities that made them interested in environmental science or being in environmental conservation. But we had two completely different backgrounds, not two, there's multiple different backgrounds. But I really did feel like I didn't get it. Like I wasn't on the same page. Like there was something that I was missing in my classes and in my program, although the program was incredible. Like, don't get me wrong, I came out of my program a completely different mindset. But it goes back to me emphasizing that there's so many different ways to contribute. Just because I have this background and a different way that I came to love and care about the environment doesn't make either one less valuable. I just think that up until this point, very recently, we have struggled to recognize that the environment means very different things for different people, culturally, personally. There are so many different ways that people experience, this passion and this investment and this care for their surroundings and the environment. And I guess the importance comes in that we are recognizing that there's not one that's more important or valuable than the other. That being an environmentalist doesn't mean that you have to ever visit a national park in your entire life. Being an environmentalist could literally just mean caring about your surroundings in your community. So if that made sense. Yes.
For me, I have never really seen an environmentalist being a Hispanic woman. So I never really got to really, I don't know, it's kind of like one of those things where you don't see yourself in that position because it feels kind of like, can I get there? Is it possible to get there? So being here in Riverwatch already makes me feel like I'm making a difference for myself, because when I talk about it with my mom about the things that we do and the things that we learn, she's learning just as much as I am. And then I go deeper thinking into it, and at least in my culture, there's not much of talking about the environment, there's not a lot of really there's no questions about it. There's no recognition about it. And already just being a part of this makes me feel like I'm making a huge impact in myself and with my family. You know, it's starting off small. So I think that it is very important that what I'm doing already, like spreading the word on it with like my friends and like my family, my cousins, I already feel like I'm making like a small step, because I definitely want to see more people of color in our environment, wanting to be there, wanting to learn more about it, wanting to make a difference, you know? And so, yeah, that is definitely how I feel that we should, yes. So thank you for listening.
Amy, Kiana, gracias por compartir, como siempre. I could just like listen to you guys talk like all day. Honestly, I love, it's just, I'm always walking away from these conversations so inspired. So yeah, I have nothing but gratitude for you guys. I'm thinking a little bit more, you know, about this question of equity and representation, and also thinking about how that relates to community. And I'm wondering if you guys could tell us a little bit about maybe the importance of community and relationships in the work that you've done with the environment. You know, we survey students a lot. We try and collect a lot of data. And year in, year out, that always comes up as a really important priority for them, and one of their kind of most meaningful things I think they take away from our program. So yeah, maybe telling us a little bit more about the community that you guys do have with Riverwatch, or even outside of it too, within kind of like the eco field. And then like in that, do you feel like you can show up as like your authentic self, you know, to this program? How important do you think that is? And again, in thinking about how this can be useful for folks who are listening today, if yes, authenticity is something, you know, you feel comfortable and like you can be your authentic self, maybe what are some of the factors then in that, like what can other programs do to kind of like have people feel more comfortable building more community, especially when we do look at issues of diversity and equity and inclusion? So again, it's a big question, but ultimately coming back to community, what are your thoughts about that, the friendships and relationships that maybe you've made, and just being able to show up as the real you? I'll let you guys kick it off.
So it was really, looking at it right now, I really am grateful for the community that was created here in Riverwatch. I feel comfortable enough to talk to any one of them about what's going on in my life, about how I feel about certain events happening outdoors, you know, like with climate change, or if not, like some kind of law that's happening, whatever is happening. It definitely, I feel super comfortable with Riverwatch. It's very important to me to have this kind of community, because it helps me feel supported, and it makes me feel like I have this kind of backbone if things aren't going well. And not only does that help with my personal life, but it also helps like when we're doing stuff together, like at the Eco House, when we're gardening and putting things into the dirt or composting, it makes it 10 times more fun, because these are people that I enjoy my time with. So I'm doing these things and it's even more fun. It doesn't even feel like work. It just feels like we're doing these things because we're like friendly, or we're just friends and we're just having fun doing these things. So having this community is it's made such an impact for me already.
Yeah, absolutely. I think community is so incredibly important to solving so many of the problems that we have going on in the world. I think so many issues that are happening, including climate change, can be directly tied to our movement away from trusting our communities. And that community isn't just physical. In some ways it is, and in many ways it is, but community also means, you know, by means of sexual orientation. It can also be community in terms of just what you're interested in and what your hobbies are. I mean, I think community is so strong, and we've seen community come through for other members in so many ways. I mean, during the winter storm, people were bringing people into their homes, and that's just so important for it's just so important for your general well-being as a person and as your community, your neighbors, taking care of them and trusting them, having resources, supporting each other. This is such, that question had so many components. I'm trying to make them all fit together in my brain. But nobody knows how to serve their land and their community as best as the people who directly have ties to it. So what I'm saying, no one can take care of the community as much as community members can. So a lot of issues come with, you know, very big, I don't want to get too political. I'm trying to stay away from any big statements, but yes, community members know how best to take care of their community, period. Same goes with the land. People who live off the land know how best to serve their land and what the land needs. As far as the importance of being your authentic self and showing up and feeling that you are accepted, I mean, with Riverwatch, I always felt like anything that I had to bring to the table, I was going to be met with support and understanding. I mean, I spent probably 90% of my time with Riverwatch in a pandemic, and I never once felt like I wasn't supported by the team there. I always felt like the contributions I had were meaningful and like genuinely meaningful, not just like a pat on the back and like, see you later. No, I'm here today. And I, you know, last I spoke to you guys was like months ago, and it like makes me feel like I'm actually, although we don't speak every day or we don't see each other like every week, I still feel supported by you guys. And that's so important for me. And that's so important for the direction that we're going in any kind of environmental justice work. I can't remember there was another component of that question that I was going to touch on that I can't remember. Do you remember what that was, Emilia? There were like 3 parts to the question. I had to map it out in my head.
The last caveat, I know we got to move on and get questions from the audience, but just if you had any recommendations for other folks, teachers, educators, people involved in nature in order to feel to have people feel more included.
Oh, yeah. I guess all I can think of is just like a really big understanding, awareness, and acceptance of intersectionality. No movement will work if not everyone is on board and supported. So that's people from all different kinds of walks of life. That's people with all different kinds of cultural backgrounds, different political beliefs, and just the awareness and acceptance and support of that will go such a long way to build community.
Beautiful. Yeah, thanks so much, both of you, for sharing such valuable insight into our program, into yourselves. And we are coming close to the end here, so I definitely want to prompt our guests to, if you have any questions for Amy, Kiana, or Emilia, or myself, please put them in the chat so we can answer them in our last 10 minutes here. And as y'all get your questions in there, I have one last one for Amy and Kiana, kind of related to, in talking about community, we have a community of listeners with us right now, majority adult listeners. And something that we really emphasize in Riverwatch, which kind of comes to the territory of working with such bright and involved young adults, is a youth-adult partnership. And in having that partnership, it not be a top-down approach and that we know everything and we'll teach you and help you do this, but in working together to accomplish and to succeed at anything, right? And so in thinking about in thinking about the environment and social justice issues, I'm curious as to what you think is important about what adults need to do, what adults need to understand when it comes to listening to and supporting youth and their voice in the issues that you see and experience when it comes to the environment and any other like social justice issues. So to rephrase, what do you guys think is important for adults to listen to youth in regards to environmental or any other social justice issue?
I think just like any big issue that our youth wants to bring to the adults is, I believe the adults should definitely allow us to come to them with an open mind. From experience, many adults just kind of look down, oh, you're being kind of like, you're overreacting, or that's not really that big of an issue. But I think being able to allowing us to come to them and not being judged about what we believe in or what we think is such a big issue is huge. It makes such a big difference being heard to, being listened to, like, okay, I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, what do you want to do about it? How can I help? And I think that's just the biggest one, is being able to just be open-minded about it and being able to comprehend what we want to come across.
Yeah, absolutely, Amy. You're totally like on point there. I think my advice and what I think will work is that I think everyone should have a little bit more humility and be a lot more humble and understand that no one is saying that the experiences you had in your life, the world you grew up in, the things that you did and saw, that's not being discounted at all. We're just saying that things are very different now, and the way things need to be done are very different now. I think like so much energy and so much time is spent on debates and trying to figure out who's right, when we can just be like, okay, this is what you know, this is what I know. Why are we understanding this differently? How can we understand this in a way that makes sense for both of us? And how can we address this issue? And if the issue is the fact that maybe an adult is not addressing that there is an issue, that's a whole other can of worms, I think. But it goes back to the humility and the being humble and knowing that you don't know everything. Yeah, I think overall in society, young people are just more plugged into what's going on. There are already like jokes and memes on social media that are going over my head, and I'm accepting that. But yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. And I don't know if Amy and Kiana, y'all are seeing people are really lifting y'all up in the comments about everything that you've shared and about, you know, your wonderful selves in general. So amazing. I'm not sure if I've missed any questions in the chat or if there are any. We have talked about a lot over this hour, so maybe there are no questions. But I think that's the last question we've got for the two of you. Emilia, I don't know if you had any other thoughts or questions you wanted to go over.
Yeah, I'm good. I feel like you guys have been in the hot seat enough. So yeah, I'd love to hear from folks at home. It's been so fun to recognize some of y'all who have partnerships or have worked with us or relationships. And then it's also so great to see some of you guys who were meeting for the first time. So thank you guys for cluing in. Yeah, any questions or thoughts again from folks out there at their homes or places of work? We'll give it maybe just another few minutes.
I'll chime in with one. I think that there's probably a lot of people that are in attendance today that are thinking about starting programs with youth. And so kind of what are some of the kind of top things for them to keep in mind as they're starting to think through that process?
Yeah, that is I feel like now, you guys, I'm in the hot seat and I'm like, wow, that is a loaded question, even though it's a simple one, because it's so broad, right? And so much depends on, I think, the specifics of programming, but at least I'll jump in from my perspective and then I'll let you guys also take a stab at it as you think about maybe what you think are big priorities. But I think what we've really learned over the past few years and kind of thinking about redesigning programming is starting off with, you know, like how can we better center youth voice and choice instead of having a more hierarchical top-down kind of structure? How can, again, we amplify the voices of folks who are actually participating in this program? What is it that y'all want to do? How can we best collect information and get that critical feedback from you guys in order to make sure that we have active buy-in and that all of our young folks feel like they're being essentially stakeholders of whatever program or organization it is that we're trying to kind of get up and off the ground. So that's my response, but again, I'll kick it over to y'all.
I think I hope y'all meant me too, but I was gonna add on that anyway. I think that, again, like such a big part that I loved my time at Riverwatch so much was the open-mindedness and the flexibility. And I think what a lot of young people want is to feel like they are trusted to lead a discussion, or feel like they're trusted to, well, I'm speaking from the intern point here, so I can't really speak on the Riverwatch point, but I think that all of that trust made me into someone that, you know, can do those things. And I could always do those things, but I'd never had been given that much, I guess, responsibility. But I hope that sounds appropriate or correct, but young people want to be in leadership positions, and they want to feel like stakeholders, like you said. But yeah, I think also with like the water quality testing, a lot of young people felt like, you know, they are like hands-on contributing. They are being left responsible and being trusted to do these water quality tests that some of them are very tedious, and they did them, you know, flawlessly. And it's because of that trust that they got to that point, not because someone was, you know, like supervising them the whole time. But yeah.
We got a great question that came in through the chat from Johanna. And these, it sounds like are definitely for Amy and Kiana. What are some of the issues that you feel are important that seem to not be taken seriously by many adults?
I immediately thought about climate change. As much as I bring that up to the many adults that are around me, it definitely brings, I'm very passionate about it. And so hearing their responses, it makes me very, are you serious right now? I have this quote that says, you'll die of old age, I'll die of climate change. And so it's like, hello, you don't care, obviously, but I do. Like, this is, it brings up a lot of turmoil in me because it matters so much. How could you not care about our earth? And so I definitely feel really overlooked when it comes to this issue. And I'm trying my best to bring as much attention to it, especially with like my family and sometimes my coworkers. I talk about it, and I don't know, I feel like the only way that could really, that would make some kind of change was if these people could see it for themselves, you know, have it right up front. Oh, this is happening. But, you know, showing them through videos what's happening, showing them through like articles doesn't make very much of an impact to them. And just all of that just fuels my fire even more to make it more of a, I'm gonna do something about this. So yeah, that is definitely one of the issues that makes me very upset.
Yeah, I will just tack on something quickly to that. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I think to break it down a little bit more, I think they don't understand the issue of convenience, because life is so convenient nowadays, and whatever makes everything more expedient and easier is opted for. But that is exactly the values that have led us to this climate crisis that we are currently living in. At least in my personal experience with my parents, I am like, oh, how about we don't get plastic bags at the grocery store? And they're like, shut up. I'm like, all right. So it's yeah, just, but you got it. That was exactly how I feel. Yes.
Well, we are at 3 o'clock. And so thank you so much, Amy, Kiana. There were so many things you said during the session today that I was just furiously trying to scribble down, because you had so many fantastic thoughts and comments throughout the presentation. So thank you so much for taking the time to present with us today. It's always exciting when we get to hear from students who are the future, who are the ones who are faced with climate change. And so thank you so much for presenting today. Thank you for everyone on the Austin Youth River Watch team. Y'all's program is one of our stellar partnerships that we love to promote. So thank you so much for all of your great work that y'all are doing. The recording for this will be available tomorrow on our YouTube channel. Feel free to share it with anyone who you, as you were listening, were like, you know who really should have heard that are these people. You know, you all had those people in your mind as you were listening. So thank you so much, everyone. And our next webinar is going to be on September 16th. It is with Texas Parks and Wildlife. Their recreation grants crew will be coming to talk about all the different grants that they offer, the co-op grant, rec trails grants, local parks grants. And so really excited to be sharing that with y'all. And I hope everyone has a fantastic afternoon. Thank you so much.